That's what we do. We hit the go live button. I have dreams about hitting the go live button. We do it a little too often.
Or some would say not often enough. Don't know who would say that,
Well,
but some would say that probably. Which is kind of nice as well.
yeah, it's a nice thing to say.
Yeah. Hi, Stuart, we're back.
Hi, Samuel. You're back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had an odd day today because the weather got real bad today. Disgustingly grey with rain and wind, and it was horrible. And I had to go to the tailor today to put some costumes in because I had no opportunity. So I was like, okay, fine. So I had to walk the sort of 40-minute round trip plus a bit of town in the disgusting rain.
Ew.
With 2 hoodies and a hat. Doing like this so that the hat would stop with the rain, and that was my bit of my afternoon.
England, y'all.
England sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, sir? What have you done in your couple of hours of the day? Because my days were slightly longer than yours, because 5 hours more time.
I've done a lot. I've cleaned up down here a little bit. Cleaned up my workbench from all the stuff I got from Christmas. And then we rearranged the living room, so I've been moving some DVDs and stuff. And moving some furniture. We're doing a lot today. Yeah, bruh.
Great. And then tomorrow we're actually doing our first Trek short shoot of the year. Sort of not rushing it in, just doing it a bit earlier than expected because Dad's getting a short. I mentioned it on a show already, but I wanted to film that. Try and release it in February, depending. I've got other things I'm doing, obviously, but people sort of expect my thing every couple of months, and there hasn't been one since November, so I have to justify the next thing to go buy more films, etc. Because still in that debt, Stuart. But Dad's a free one because obviously he can just come over, etc. So that'll be fun. It's a TOS film, so let's see how well he can read an auto cue and act TOS.
Be interesting to see.
It will be. I'll send you some pictures because that'll probably tickle you in a certain place.
I didn't need to hear that part.
Yeah, you did. Alright, I'm going to start sharing. I'll see you in a minute.
Go for it. So yeah, guys, hit that like button if you're just joining us. If you haven't hit it yet, just hit that like button. If you're watching this after the fact, hit the like button. Also, if you're watching this after the fact and it's not live, you can super thanks. There's a super thanks button down there. But if you're here now, you can super chat, as Tom Casey just did. So that all helps us out. It gets your voice heard. It gets us talking about what you want to hear us talk about. And should be a good time and hopefully a good discussion. There's a lot of new Trek, 5 series in 2022, and we're going to talk about it because a lot of stuff worked, a lot of stuff didn't, and we want to get your thoughts on it. So we want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. You give us the topic, super chat in, and we will talk about it. We do read them all on the air. Anyhow, also. Join the channel. There's a join button down there. That is a monthly way to support us. So we really appreciate that. Or you can head over to Patreon/Trekyards for another monthly way to help and donate. So also, there are links down below to Teespring and TeePublic stores where we get some really good Trekyards merch. Came up with some ideas today for some new shirts, which is awesome. And I'm going to be making those up probably later this week. And there'll be more shirts available in the Trekyards stores. So if you haven't checked out the shirts that we have already, go do that. Or the mugs or the whatever. There's a whole bunch of stuff available on each site. So go check those out and support us in that way also. Lots of ways to help. But hitting that like button is a big deal. 28 of you here, 16 likes. I think, we could probably do better than 16. Let's try to get to 30 likes. There you go. Ooh, Janie, you're not wrong, but that's a hot take. So it's not really a hot take. I think everybody agrees with that. So anyway, tis what it is. But even Discovery and Picard, they both had their own charm and their own few things they got right and things that worked. So yeah, we're going to talk about all that stuff. Tom Casey, though, throws in $5.
Thank you.
Can't stay, just stop by to say hi. Always love what you guys have to say. Well, thank you, Tom.
It's a very nice thing to
chat.
say. That's very nice.
Hopefully he watches it later. If you can't stay now. But yeah, as I was saying to them,
yes,
while you were gone, like 5 new Trek series out this year. Lots of Trek to cover. Content-wise, a lot of it worked, a lot of it didn't. And it's up to them to decide kind of what we talk about. We will, of course, talk, obviously, but they can super chat in and give us something to talk about, what they liked or what they didn't. You know the routine, and so do they. Hopefully. Because if you don't know the routine, you haven't been paying attention.
Just doing a poll?
Okay, he's doing a poll. Jamie, some of the new Star Trek shows, such as Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard, were just 100% plain awful and a disgrace to Star Trek. Well, as I said, even those had some, bright spots and good things about them, each one. So we like to talk about all of the good and all of the bad and all of Star Trek. This is the way. So it's not all bad. It's not all dire. Come on. There is some bright spots in Discovery and Picard.
Okay, this is a very interesting, I think, poll. So read out and let me know what you think.
Best thing about... Oh, fucking close this on. God damn.
Every time, Stuart. Every time.
Best thing about 2022's Trek overall. Old cast and characters returning. Developing brand new stories. The variety in different Trek. Are returning to episodic Trek. Mostly.
Mostly, because... They can't be fully, but 3 out of the 5 shows were episodic Trek. So, well, okay, no, 2 out of the 5.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was trying to...
But Prodigy had some and then not. And then Picard had some and then not. And then a whole episode in a alleyway. So this was your topic, Stuart, so what rings your bell as having worked?
Well, for me, obviously, Prodigy really kicked off with a bang last year. And then this year just followed up with it and just finished off strong. And Strange New Worlds, honestly, really, really worked for me. Besides the visual stuff, but I mean, it's rebooted, that's fine. Or reimagined. But other than that, I mean, returning to episodic storytelling, very good characters, well written, good stories overall. And it feels like a cohesive thing, because it's much easier to, with episodic format, to have a few misses here and there. Strange New Worlds didn't have any, really. They all kind of worked for storytelling purposes, but that's the problem with the other ones, like Picard and Discovery. If you got a really strong idea, it's hard to stretch that and just that over 10 episodes, right? So returning to episodic storytelling for Trek was a good idea, and it gives you a good feeling at the end of the episode, like you've seen a whole piece of Star Trek and you feel good about the outcome generally, or you have a resolution to the storyline. So honestly, I think Strange New Worlds kind of hit it out of the park by doing what they did. I just wish it would be more visually continuity-ish. So there you go. Lower Decks still firing on all cylinders and doing its thing.
Well, a few less cylinders, but still most cylinders.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as the other seasons, but
which is allowed to be.
Yeah. Ray Ricks, member for 10 months at the rank of captain.
That's a lot. Thanks so much.
The problem with Disco is that every first contact situation, like at the end of the season, you have magic space mushrooms and time crystals.
Boy, if it was just the JJ Verse show, you wouldn't even blink at that stuff, would you? They can throw every nonsense thing into the pot. Which is funny, because a proto-drive sounds reasonable and logical. A spore drive sounds ridiculous. It's interesting how the audience had almost entirely like, oh, great. And then, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, why are they so different? Well, because one's just a warp booster. That's all it is. The other one is they're using a unseen, unknown network of organic life which subtracts the universe to flow on that to travel anywhere in the universe at any point.
Right.
A new layer of reality is a bit more ambitious than just it boosts you at warp. It's just a warp. You know, you say it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, sure, not everybody might consider all these canon, but you know, it's pretty clear
Who
that
wouldn't do
they
that,
want them
Stu?
to.
That's not really a logical thing to say.
Well, they obviously don't want them to be. Well, they obviously want them to be considered canon. It's just you have to kind of do that divide of what's right in Strange New Worlds. It's just you know, a different telling of the story, if you will, another reality.
Well, it's funny, because we've had two opposite shows. Strange New Worlds is brand new visual style, brand new characterizations, whole new direction, ignore it or don't, moving on. Prodigy is using all the canon to flow into itself, including obscure stuff, and doing it perfectly. Like Lower Decks kind of is everything, because they can get away with stuff looking mostly right, because it's really a cartoon. Prodigy get a bit closer. Then Picard does both and neither, and you know, all the above as well. There's interesting to have two back to back of like, well, one is really trying to be Trek, one's trying to be its own thing visually. It's odd.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. That's the juxtaposition of like Strange New Worlds. It's trying to be Trek, feels like Trek, characters feel like Trek, stories feel like Trek, visuals still feel like Trek, but it's then stepped itself outside of the Prime universe, the Prime timeline. I don't know. It's like 90% there. Just fix those visuals, and I'd be a lot happier with it. And not that I dislike it by any means.
It'll never be as good as it could have been if it wasn't a bit more respectful to the visuals, like actually respectful, not just. It's got red pipes on the ceiling. That's TOS, right? But why are your corridors 3 times wider? Why is there this much space?
Because the ship's bigger.
It's not though. That's not how that works.
I know. You're preaching to the choir there.
But it's interesting. Mark. Hello, Mark.
Mark Lawrence, $5. Howdy, y'all. This should be a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
Prodigy walks away at the top of 2022. No retcons and the best storytelling. Very layered and textured storytelling in Prodigy.
And it's funny, I've had to keep re-skimming through the entire season, this half season, for thumbnails of yesterday and today. It's amazing how much of it I'm like, that scene. Like, so much of it.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yeah, it's pretty great. The Dark Lord Revan throws in $20.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Strange New Worlds brought back a love and excitement for all Star Trek shows. Kobayashi Maru episode of Star Trek Prodigy is the one that finally sold it to me. Love the return of Q. I think I'm the only person who likes Q. Picard went on for way too long. You're not the only person who likes Q. Everybody likes Q in some weird, twisted kind of way. If you like what they did with Q, that might be a different situation. There were pieces of that story and of Q moments that were, I think, very well done. But the overarching like pins that were kind of holding it to the story didn't quite work, and it kind of fell in a few spots. And he wasn't used as much as he should have been.
Yeah, he's only in like 40 minutes.
Yeah, and even why he's there, you don't quite understand why he's there.
And you can kind of feel the retcon nature of the storytelling, because we know they changed things a little bit as they went, a little bit anyway, with different showrunners. You know, he's so aggressive at the start, but his rationale at the end is to help you learn about your dad so I can die. He didn't have to be as aggressive at the start. There isn't a direct tie between the two things, and ignoring him for the entire middle. Like, this is interesting. They're not the same idea. Like, someone came in, changed scripts, did something as they like, maybe Terry had the vision, and then Akiva Goldsman he had a different vision of the vision, but they don't connect, because you need to have explicitly the setup and the payoff connect, otherwise you're just doing 2 different scenes. That's really important, and that's huge, I think.
It felt like 2 different stories that they mushed together. Like I would have been much happier if Picard season 2 had a 4-episode story arc of like a main story,
or like 5 and
3,
5,
and then, or even a 3 and then 3, or 4, 3 and 3, like 3
Yeah.
different stories in one season. sort of serialized, but and sure they can maybe overlap in a few little places, but as we've compared it to before, it's like a wad of chewed gum, and you start doing this, and it just goes in the middle. It just dips quality-wise.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
that's a good analogy.
It's very stringy, and there's nothing to it. There's no substance.
And it's funny because you could have very easily have had Q be the antagonist or positive of all 10, but have it be, like say, maybe 2 to set up, 4, and then 2. No, 4. Yeah, 2, 4, 4. And when you think you know the answer to the end of the second or the first 4, a second big story happens, and then it reveals no, Q is behind all of the 3 individual stories. Would work fine. Do you somewhat have with them going back into the past, but then they spend 7 in the past? And do you remember I said to you several times, oh, they're not going to spend more than 3, it wouldn't functionally work.
Yeah.
And they spent 7.5.
And it didn't functionally work.
Yeah.
36 people here, 25 likes, guys. Hit that like button. Let's get those likes up. Keep the super chats coming. We want to talk about what you guys want to talk about all the new Trek in 2022. Anything that you want us to argue about or discuss or theorize, I want you to super chat it in and we will talk about it.
But Reigns says, yes, wish Q didn't die. Picard in general is disappointing. Well, Q didn't die. A Q at the end of his life died, but Q is non-temporal, so there is still Q popping up all throughout the universe. So as long as Delancey wants to keep voicing him, he can come back. Maybe not visually because he's a bit too old now, but video games, all like Q might have been 1 million years older in his perspective by the time he was dying for Picard season 3. It's not as if he came straight from Voyager to Picard and there's nothing but didn't go straight from Lower Decks cameo into that. Like those scenes aren't connected. So you can still tell limited adventures in between, and that's fine. So he's only dead in the sense of like Picard's dead, right? Like he is dead somewhere in the timeline. We might have got there yet, or Kirk is dead, but you could still bring Shatner back. He's obviously in Strange New Worlds. So like Q is not dead. We just know he has an end, which is different from a non-temporal being because he went from being young to old, so he could be anywhere, anything. Yeah, like and actually great parallel. It's like Hugh Jackman, who announced he was leaving as Wolverine with Wolverine, and then now he's back again 10 years later. But they clarify, no, it's before Logan. It's before Logan.
Yeah. Well,
that's fine, because like it's all good. Just come back and play. Like that. There's non-temporal stuff you can do with it.
Yeah. The Dark Lord Reverend says, "Do the Q experience time linear like us or non-linear like the prophets?" Non-linear. They're omnipotent. So,
well, I think
somebody mentioned earlier that maybe then Q would know about his own death if he could see the future. But
well, I think they experience it linear because there is still he met Picard first, didn't know who he was at that point. Like he had a linear experience with the team. Like he met Janeway after he met Sisko, after he met they knew him after. So he's still experiencing time linearly, but he can move throughout all of time non-linearly. He's a being outside of time, but he still experiences time.
Yeah.
It's not like when they went to the Q continuum, 10,000 years hadn't passed while they were discussing with other Q. Like there's still they were all living in the relativistic time that they were doing. But the prophets are any corporeal. There's nothing there, like they live in a energy phenomenon as energy. It's different to a Q, which is good, but it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Ray Ricks throws in £5. So thank you. I think the ending for Q was nice. All gods have favorites, but no explanations as to why he is dying and why he is alone.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's been thrown out of the continuum a few times, so could be anything. Yeah, we need more explanation for sure.
Because where was Lady Q and where was Son Q? It's like not mentioning Lal or Law in season 1. It's just the writers weren't good enough to utilize them. It's like, guys, you need to. He would mention his kid. He's had his kid for maybe thousands of years. It's just bad writing to just ignore the canon just to pay off the one moment of foul point and all good things. Like there's more to Q. Like if he died, does that mean he's a deadbeat dad now? Like not mentioning your son on your deathbed.
Oh.
Like not caring enough, or his wife not showing up, or his partner at his death, like, does that mean they hate him so much? Again, deadbeat father. You know, like that. There are implications for maybe he says goodbye to them earlier, but then to end with your favorite pet after you say goodbye. Like you don't say goodbye to your wife and son, then say goodbye to your dog, and then walk out into traffic. Other way around, you know.
Yeah. It's like the room of writers who were not focused or didn't give two shits. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, even if we jump to Discovery for a minute, I mean, again, I think the final episode was pretty good.
No, the first and last were solid.
Yeah.
Genuinely solid, yeah.
Actually, the first like 2 or 3 we were like, we like where this is going.
Well, it does this.
I know, but 3 in we're like, oh, there's still potential here.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of, it was like torture watching it. It's like nothing happened. Oh, okay, one little thing. Okay.
And we don't like the characters 4 years in. It's really bad. Because you like all the TNG cast 4 years in. You like all Discovery. Like all just like every other cast 4 years in. Even the entire Enterprise cast you like 4 years in. At least my perspective.
Look at Strange New World. You like everybody by the end of season 1.
By the end of episode 5, Stuart. By episode 3, I liked them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like they did it beautifully. So I mean, Discovery again had a good story, but it should have been a max of like 4 episodes, and then do something else. There's a lot of potential in that future where the Federation was broken up because of the burn. Go back and we said this going into that season. I want to see new first contacts or like reconnecting with members of the Federation that they haven't talked to in a while. Would have been great, and you could have had some standalone episodes mixed in with the overarching story. It just didn't. I mean, following Tarka and Book around, and it was a great idea to have them be an antagonist to the Discovery crew, especially Book. But there was a few moments that played out really well with that, but it just didn't need to drag on so long.
And also, a lot of will they, won't they? As in, is he a baddie, is he not? Is he a baddie, is he not? Is he a baddie, is he not?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. And please use your characters. Like Jet Reno, come on. Great character, but never in the goddamn show.
I mean, we know why. COVID obviously is the reason for a lot of these things.
Yes.
But they could easily record a voiceover of her from her house. I mean, Prodigy and Lower Decks were entirely made from their houses. So, of course, you could do that, you know? It would be so easy. Yeah, I mean, Discovery is just so tricky because it was a genuinely good story. And Burnham is a lot better. Book is great. The twists are solid and strong and dark. And yet, stretched with nonsensical stuff. And also just so much lack of logic in those. Like it's hard to remember it because so little happened, yet the big things that happened were mixed in. Like they do a run on the power core, and we're thinking, why couldn't the most powerful race ever found stop them? And they, like, this random ship can't avoid. Like, they can't, but they are. But they can't. It's not. You know?
Yeah. I don't know. And the proof is in the pudding as far as it being a good story. Like you said, episode 1 and the last one worked really well. So a good 2-parter. Just don't drag it out so long. I don't understand that mindset of we have 10 episodes. Let's waste it on this one story, which is a good story idea, but we just don't have anything to fill the middle. And it seems like that's what's been happening with Picard and Discovery. I mean, Prodigy has one overarching story, but they were doing other things in between, and there were some standalone episodes in there as well, and it worked very well. And that was 20 episodes, although half the length. So if you combine it, it's basically 10 episodes. That's fine.
Although really it was 5, 5, 5, and 5 based on the structure of the season.
Yeah.
Give or take.
But it works so much better.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So I don't know why.
Well,
Discovery needs to get a clue, man.
But yeah, it's just the because that's the thing though. It's you don't know. I mean, look at season 1 of Discovery. They had several writers, several swap rounds. In production, things changed. So, if you look at the overall story worked, but what if, and we won't know this because they didn't talk about it. They didn't do things like with Prodigy. They've been open with us in some other interviews about things, truncating things or whatever. If they had said, okay, by episode 4, 3 people test positive for COVID, so they had to skip episode 5 and 6. Not they couldn't reshoot those things later. Maybe it was time sensitive, something else. And we didn't get the LED room for 3 weeks we were expecting, so we couldn't do anything there. So we had to entirely change episodes 5 and 6 to pad, which we had to produce because we were under contract, and we only had the studio for 9 weeks, so we had to make those episodes. So we had to rewrite just stuff that, and we only had $500 more bucks per day extra to try and pad that with. And then we sort of stole this from episode 8 and this from episode 4, and we did, like, if that happened, you can understand why it was padded to hell. But without knowing that, you're assuming that given that it had an extra 6 months to write it, if that was the intended storyline with every episode carefully balanced, well, where did they go wrong? Because they should have predicted that, because the other seasons weren't badly paced as much. Like it's odd because season 2 was a really good pace, relatively. 2 was interesting with plot hole fill, but they never had a problem with pace so much. They never quite dragged in the same way.
Yeah, 2 was good. Well, I found 2 better.
That was contrast versus quality.
Well, I like the way they kind of did the story in 2 though, because they had bookends on each episode of the main story.
Oh yes, I remember.
Story idea ending with that, but in the middle was its own kind of standalone thing, which kind of worked. And that's the way they should do it. I mean, even Lower Decks kind of got that right this season. They had sprinkled in all these little clues about Buen Amigo and a few little things here and there throughout 1 or 2 episodes to come to this big finale at the end. And I think that worked very well. But I mean, Lower Decks has been, it's kind of the old kid on the block at this point, right behind Discovery. And Discovery's still not, they just haven't clued in. I don't know why. I've seen a lot of articles over the past few years, like Discovery is its own thing, and it's good, and this is good or whatever. And it's like, it's not though. It's I don't know. I just don't know the mentality behind the decisions they make. Like they're literally setting out to piss people off. It seems they're pulling a Rian Johnson.
Well, the thing is, they are their own bubble. They've had the team the longest by an absolute mile. They started the production cycle with the VFX people. They are the initiators. So they can do their own thing. But I don't see the interest being there compared to the other ones. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Prodigy, that's a hard one because there's not as much interest, but it stacked against itself in many ways. Not necessarily their fault, just happens to be.
Yeah.
Despite being very good.
Merlos says, Discovery going for 7 seasons? People need to drop the 7-season thing. I mean, they will go for 7 seasons on principle, I think. Maybe even 8, just to kind of, we get a 8. But when you look at the quality and the quantity of each season, the quantity is not there. You get 10 episodes a season with Discovery. Well, sometimes you get 13 or 14 with Discovery. You get a little bit more sometimes. But
that got stopped after the Netflix loss.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be a thing now.
So whenever anybody says, "Oh, Discovery made it to season 7 or to season 8 longer than TNG, it must be better."
Yeah.
No, that's not the case at all, because you stack up the hours of Trek that's there, 24 episodes versus 10. They'd have to go for 14 seasons to kind of get there.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, do the math. I can't do math
to
say no. So, and it gotta be fair. Some of these episodes are a little bit longer too.
Well, TNG was 50 minutes, was 45, 50 sometimes. So
yeah.
I wouldn't call that too far out.
Yeah.
I don't think TNG could go less than 45 anyway. So okay, let's just do some math here.
Let's see. And Joe Smith has a good point. Oh, there were absolutely teething issues and creative problems because Cisco tried to be something else, but they looked and learned after the madness. It started to find old Trek again. I mean, sort of, yes. But yes, unfortunately, Discovery, if this was a race, Discovery, as soon as that firing gun fired, somebody had tied Discovery shoelaces together and tripped right out of the blocks, right on their fucking face. Tried to get up again, stumbled and fell a few times because they changed the original idea from Brian Fuller's, which already had all the visual stuff done, like the Klingons and the sets. And then they tried to, once he left, they had all that stuff. They couldn't spend the money again to remake it. They had to use what they had, weave a story around it. But those people, those showrunners got fired. And then new showrunners picked up, tried to tie up the loose ends of the other story, the showrunners, and it just happened again. So yeah, they had a real stumble out of the gate, and it really shows when you look at it.
So I did some math. So
Okay.
yes, people might argue that Discovery got to 7. If they got to 8, the first show did the 8th season. But if you look at episodes, with what they've already made, 55 to TNG's, they would need to reach season 17 to match TNG's 7 in actual episode count. So they're not going to, obviously, and yet they will still be the first crowned season 8. And it's like, how many episodes did you do? Only 90, right? Instead of 170, right?
Yeah. When you look at it that way, it's so black and white as to and they're going to push for that. They're going to push for at least 7 seasons. I guarantee you. And I dare say they're going to go over 7 just to say that, because all of the backlash against Discovery, they want to prove their point. That we lasted this long. It can't be that bad. What all you people are saying.
But although it's a little bit different because we're now in a recession worldwide. They obviously pandemic boomed because all Lower Decks, Picard, all these shows are made in the pandemic, so they were all commissioned beforehand or still commissioned. And then during, when everyone was doing more streaming services, they felt fine to recommission whatever. But now they've got, tens of millions, it'd be hundreds of millions, wouldn't it? I mean, are they getting close to $1 billion in Star Trek budget a year? Because you don't announce 5 TV shows, all of which have, I'm sure Sneak was charging as much as Mulgrew is for Voyager because she's doing more longer, obviously it's different animation versus live action, but the fact that an old legacy captain with 7 years can probably about as much as Sneak were. So the pay raises are going to be huge. Pay rates, I should say. They're not, Picard season 4 is not a thing. Are they going to recommission Prodigy? Don't know. Because where are they making their money from? They're not doing toys with anything. They're not doing games with anything, really, in the next set. So that's not coming in. Paramount Plus is around the world, but I don't know how you quantify that metric anyway. Now, Weekly Trek was also a good example. Like, has Trek been high on everyone's radars by being weekly, or has it lowered in the radar because there's no longer a new Trek show coming in 4 weeks because we're still in the Trek show that we've had for 8 weeks? Like, was it a mistake to go Weekly Trek? Some people don't lose a subscription, but the excitement level may have reduced. Or are they getting everybody's weekly subscription all year round? Is that worth it? Because
I think that's worth it in the end. Because I mean, a lot of people might. You're kind of touching on franchise fatigue there a little bit.
Well, no, franchise excitement. Because how can you be excited? There's new things. Each one's different. There's no fatigue. It's just, why would you be excited if you've had Trek every week for 50 weeks?
Yeah.
It's just a different sort of. There's no.
Well,
There's
enough variety out there now. Like Strange New Worlds definitely scratches some itches for some people, and that's cool. Discovery has its own fan base. What doesn't have a fan base though is advertisements, and here's one now.
I saw it pop up as well, right as you were.
I know. Lower Decks has like the Rick and Morty kind of crowd, like the humor. People enjoy that.
I think they found their own crowd now. They're 4 years in. I mean,
for sure. But a lot of people still won't watch it because of that. But anyway, there's something for everybody kind of thing. And then you get these blanket statements of all new Trek sucks. It's like, well, it doesn't. You have no ground to stand on there just because you're a grumpy old man yelling at the clouds while standing on his lawn, you know, that doesn't quite work because it's erroneous. There's good in all of these shows for Trek fans, even Discovery. They have their moments.
Well, it also, you know, if you expect less, you'll gain more. You know, knowing that Discovery's never going to be our favourite, it'd be, you know, there's too much of a baseline that we don't love, means you can watch it. Like, we both watched the season, we did our reviews. I'm never going to watch that season again, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I did my bit, and that's fine. Like, we got our entertainment, we moved on from it. Other seasons are different, but doesn't mean, you know, other things. Just, it's fine, it's good, did its thing, it's alright.
Ray Ricks, though, throws in £5.
Thank you.
I know a fair few people new to Trek that really enjoy Disco. It has a fair few fans who are new to the franchise. Yeah, and that's as we've kind of said many times, it's kind of like generic sci-fi. It's pretty good for generic sci-fi, but it's not really ever great Trek. So if they're not Trek fans already and they come in with Discovery, that's fine. They like sci-fi, they like that kind of thing. But how will the actual flavor of real Star Trek, I shouldn't say real Star Trek, but of, I don't even know how to phrase that without saying that. What has made Trek so successful for 50 years, will that appeal to them? Because not everybody's a Star Trek fan. Some people are hardcore Star Wars fans. They don't care about Trek at all. It's more of a different kind of storytelling. It's not action-based. It's cerebral. And if you put on the Discovery shoes, it's action-based. It really is. So a lot of people getting into it that are into that kind of thing, like summer blockbusters, like the Kelvin films, might enjoy that. But they watch an episode of TOS or TNG that's a little slow and more moral storytelling, they might not enjoy it. So is it bringing them into the franchise, or is it giving them the wrong impression of what Star Trek is or should be? Like, because if they switch off of Discovery because they liked it and they watch another Star Trek show, they might be totally turned off. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really a good introduction into Trek, Discovery, right off the hop, if you've never seen any Star Trek. It's exciting, it's action, but it's not what Star Trek really is.
Well, it's like the 2009 film. If that's your first Star Trek and you love that, and if you watch TNG and hate it, then what you want from the entertainment called Star Trek is not what Star Trek is designed to do or crafted to do. So that's your Trek, but it's not a reflection on what Trek is or what it should be or what it can be. So you like what you like, but there's a reason why, you know, the Transformers films did so well, even the bad ones, which are arguably terrible, and reviews are bad. Like from a story perspective, because some people just want to go to the cinema and watch CG robots fighting, and they're not even going to remember the characters' names by the end of listening to them for 2 hours, and that's great, right? We both come from a more analytical side. I come from a heavily analytical side, I studied film. So, you know, I mean, lots of people, like The Godfather, are going to bore them to shit because it's a cerebral film. You know, there's the you know, a line of dialogue might not appeal to anybody, but if you understand why a dialogue works, bonus, then that's great. And then, you know, there's a reason why, like TNG was such an interesting zeitgeist because it was almost universally liked once people gave it a chance. Now, yes, remember, people didn't like it because it wasn't TOS. But that's not a statement on the show, it's a statement on not being TOS. That's an irrelevant statement to the quality of the show that it wasn't TOS, right?
Yeah.
Like, most people like TNG, like 7 out of 10 or more, right? And then the other shows are all variable, but TNG is sort of the unifier, right? So showing either it grabbed something that was either good at the time that doesn't work now, but I think people still like it now, and I think kids would still like it now if they watched it, or is it this great balance of what Trek is and needs to be, that it hits all the bases, and every other show does something away from that. Then you have Discovery or 09, where they take so many aspects away, throw in other things. The mix is, the soup is so different. Tastes some people, but if it's so different, then, you know, if you've grown accustomed to that, you don't like the other thing, well, that's kind of on you, because you're not interested in Star Trek, just that Trek.
Well, the interesting thing is, Discovery was made and justified at the time as they wanted to widen the audience, bring in new people. So that's why they redesigned everything, because it
There's
couldn't
always the
look like,
justification for throwing away old stuff.
yeah, it couldn't look like TOS because nobody would buy that these days. Strange New Worlds kind of changed that a little bit. I mean, Strange New Worlds still has kind of a retro '60s look to it.
I would disagree.
Um,
It's very modern. It's very 2001 in how modern and nice it looks.
I would disagree.
Okay.
A lot of the furniture and stuff is that retro kind of look. But to build Discovery and say, all right, we want to get new people into the franchise. The franchise is dying, as they said, which is bullshit. It was a weird choice, and I think they maybe realized it at some point, because now I've got all these new shows and something that'll appeal to everybody, like old Trekkies. Well, most old Trekkies. Some old Trekkies, like I said, are the guy on their lawn yelling, shaking their fist. They won't watch it. I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, let's get to some super chats. Matt Boardman, $5.
Matt Boardman, $5.
When I was on Discovery, we were always told that they were aiming for 7 seasons.
That was 3 showrunners ago.
Wow. Yeah. Sean O'Sullivan, €2. All good, but Disco Hall's garbage. Okay. Matt Boardman, $5. Do you think Legacy Trek benefited from the time it was released? Would people be more critical of it today if it were released today? No, I don't. So you're saying it's a product of its time. I mean, some of the stories, yeah, but those stories are pretty much universal, and like we learned from Battlestar Galactica, it's all happened before, it'll happen again. History has a way of repeating itself. So the stories that they told and the analogies they pulled from like real life and the turmoil times of the 60s still apply today. It's still turmoil. It's maybe a little bit different turmoil, but no, I don't think it was had anything to do with when it was released. I think they still apply.
And I somewhat disagree in that all media is from when it was made.
Well, absolutely, yes.
So if you literally made TNG with a model shot now, the audience would complain the CGI is dull as all hell. It might still look nice, but it's not going to make anybody go wow, like someone in their basement could do it now with a DSLR and you know what I mean? So
yeah.
If it was literally made now, then yes, many things would be looked upon as being not enough going into it. But then obviously you can't do that, because that would take all classic media in all forms, in all books, all music. That record sounds terrible because it was recorded with 1920s sound recordings. But you don't judge it based on the sound recordings. I think
Matt was talking about the themes and the stories, though, not the visuals.
Well, but it's not a question. Of course they don't. Of course they'd be appreciated now. That's not even an argument. Yeah. I think it means I took it as the entire thing, because otherwise, of course, it would work today. Any of the tracks would work today if you made them now, which they're trying to, and they're sort of failing because they're doing other things that don't work so well.
Yeah, but I don't think he was talking about that specifically. Matt, let us know.
Yes. It's all kind of a package. You can't look at TNG as just what it is, as in like just one piece. It's all of it together. It's like if those actors weren't those actors, it wouldn't be the same either.
But those effects and model shots and props still hold up today from TNG.
But they don't look as detailed as they would have been today. I'm saying if they were made today, they would all look like they were made on 1/10 the budget, because you can make that what they made 1/10 as quickly now. So therefore it would look cheap now. It would look nice but cheap, like a B sci-fi made today. Like a 3D printer could churn, like, think how much time it took Michael Moore to hand resin a phaser and all the electronics. Now you'd make a board this small, you'd 3D print it in 2 hours, you'd have a phaser, 5 phasers done by the end of the day. Whereas friends at 3D print done resin, it's days and days of work. Like, so, like, you know what I mean? To get the same level of effort and quality.
Mm-hmm.
The
Dark Lord Revan, $5. When are we getting Nick Cage in Star Trek, you think? He said in an interview he won't do Star Wars, but he's a big Trekkie. The problem with pulling in somebody like that is then it becomes about them. and that's not what really Trek really is. The funny thing is, they were going to cast Eddie Murphy in Star Trek 4, and I think that would have absolutely fucking ruined that movie. It would have become an Eddie Murphy movie, not a Star Trek movie. So,
but
I'd love to have him in something big budget, like a movie, like another Kelvin movie. Have him be like a villain or something, sure. But
it's funny
on the small screen
because in theory, Michelle Yeoh was that for Discovery. She was the biggest actor on that by a long way. You know, mass movie star. She didn't pull away from that show as being, oh my god, it's Michelle Yeoh for most people, etc. And even, Kovac in Discovery, he's a famous director for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't pull away from it. And Nicolas Cage I love him a lot, but he's well past his heyday. So if he was in it now, it wouldn't be the same as if it was, if he'd just done Con Air last week. You know what I mean? He does the quality of what he does is not respected as much now. But I think best to be him in a TV show. Give the guy a chance to act in a long form. Put him in a movie, he's going to get 30 minutes of screen time. He's going to be the Nick Cage starring. If he's in a TV show, he can have 10 minutes an episode, really deep and let him act, super off what he's used to, and then he's just part of the playing cast. Because if you have 10 hours of Nick Cage, you won't think, that's Nick Cage. You'll think, oh, that's Bedren, the Klingon or whatever. So I actually think he'd be really cool. And then if everyone freaking loves him for his character, he's in the next season. And he'll lower his rate. He's in the next season. Now, say Nick Cage is a 4-season regular. Holy shit, like that. I think that's a better way, rather than he's a villain of Star Trek 9, or the good guy of Star Trek 9.
Yeah. Joe Smith throws in £5 with no comment. Thank you so much, Joe. Oh, there's a super chat comment right there. He says, I think new Trek viewers will hate old Trek because it looks lame, like a conference around a table about tackling issues, etc., rather than action and space fights, etc. I'm gonna let you field this one.
Well, it's it's a demographic thing as well. Not everyone likes action films as the primary thing anyway. So you're taking out that sub demographic, and also if there's so much generic action out there, do you want to play another generic action show, or do you want something that's interesting, that's different, that makes you think? There's so little shows that make you think, and those tend to stand out a tad more. So and then do it's like Rick and Morty. We're watching the commentaries, and there's a great comment where they said there's a joke that we wrote in episode 3 that we knew would offend some people, and the showrunner said, but we kept it because we wouldn't want the people it would offend to be fans anyway. Because you don't want every fan. You don't want fans of Trek that are going to think she's a black lady, we hate her, for Michael Burnham. Those aren't fans you want to have as fans of Star Trek. As part of the community, those aren't good fans, if that's the reason.
Joe Smith clarifies and says, not my own opinion. I love older Trek. Just think for new viewers. We've heard that argument a lot. We've had one or two people on like Tara brought that up at one point. She's said that the old TOS looks fake and cheap. But as we've talked about here today, it's product of its time. Those were like top-notch special effects and sets back in the 60s.
Yeah, it was nothing but it was high budget, very, very high budget.
Exactly.
But I just mean it's you don't want people who just like generic action films as the regular audience for Star Trek. That will dumb down Star Trek. You want the people who appreciate the deeper meaning, because there's been people in the audience for 50 years that have appreciated that level. Those fans have been big enough to generate a franchise for 50 years. Lost in Space came and went. Didn't have a franchise power to keep going for decades. BSG came and went. I can name so many things. So there is a huge subset of the population of the Earth, mostly of Western audiences, who like this sort of media, who built on this sort of media. So yes, some people might not like talking around the table, but millions do, and they pay to watch Star Trek, and they want more Star Trek. They'll appreciate some action scenes too, and we love a best of both worlds little battle sequence. But do we really want the 2 million people that just want car chases? And then if they don't like those episodes of the new show, then that means they won't go back and watch the other shows. They won't like them. So we don't want those audience members. Like, I'm not going to pander to them because they're not, I don't like football. I'm not going to... A football... FIFA is not going to pander to me to get me to watch football. I'm never going to watch football ever. So them trying to get me as a viewer is wasted. I'm not going to buy any merch. I'm never going to go to a game. I'm never going to buy a football.
They're going to change soccer games to have like a debate in the middle of the soccer field for like 5 minutes about a moral issue to get you involved.
Or every 30 minutes they'll change Starfleet uniforms and there'll be a new timeout. Like that's a waste of everyone's time to make me a football fan. So why would you make a Range Rover fan who loves shotguns, who hates black people, a fan of Trek? Like, it doesn't matter. Don't appeal to them. It's fine, right? There's billion people who like this Trek. It's all good. Do you know what I mean, Stuart? Is this okay?
No, I absolutely love that. Yeah. That was a great analogy with the soccer. Sean O'Sullivan, member for 2 months at the rank of commander, says, at Samuel, going to see Takei in West End? He's asking you.
Sorry, I was zoned out for a second. No, but maybe. I mean, if the tickets are like 50 quid and it's a 4-hour play and it takes 50 quid to get there, it's like, yeah. I would probably make more effort to see if Patrick and McEwen, whatever his name is, did a thing together, because that's I don't know, iconic pairing. If I'd known, I probably caught them years ago.
Yeah. But
yeah, good for Takei. I love he's doing it, and in the UK of all places, yay! Glad he's here. It's nice.
And Matt Boardman, $5. Mandalorian torpedoed the disco argument. What people want is good stories, and for you to not be respectful of what happened before, or for you to not be disrespectful of what happened before. Yes, Mandalorian. You saw the inside of those X-wings and the displays and the switches. They all look exactly like they did in the 70s.
They were wearing generic orange jumpsuits that wouldn't make sense, because how they protected from space, and the helmets don't do anything, and they're wearing bad gloves that look like they're from the 70s, Stuart.
Because that's what everything was. Yeah, the Mandalorian did it fucking bang on.
And it's funny, because Last Jedi split the fan base. Mandalorian reunited as much as could be brought back without ill will, just saying, what the fuck have you done Star Wars? You can make a show everyone likes, like mostly everyone. Because if you get 90%, that's everyone, right? There's an everyone modica.
Yeah.
Even 75% you could argue is basically everyone, because not everyone's going to love everyone thing, but 75% is a very good margin for everyone.
Yeah. Matt Bourbon throws in $5 and says, don't get me wrong, I think that no matter what, those episodes would resonate. I was just asking a question to spark a discussion.
And you did.
Ooh, how dare you?
Oh.
But that's what super chats are for. Speaking of, guys, super chat.
Yes.
Also hit that like button. You have 65 people here with 49 likes.
Ooh.
Let's get those likes up to 60.
And the poll, I want to stop at 75 votes. So go vote in the poll. We've got 3 more votes. Go vote. It's really interesting set of things, and very interesting actually. So vote now. I don't think it'll change the numbers, but yeah, there you go. 3 more votes.
We're all about the discussion, and those super chats help us come up talk about what you put in your super chats. So yes. Yeah.
And this is a fun, it's not heated, but we're going into interesting territories which create conversation.
Yeah.
Throw us stuff, guys, and vote in the poll.
Sean O'Sullivan, though, €2. Star Trek V Shuttle Bay is coming to America Throne Room. Oh, from Coming to America, they turned that in the Throne Room. That's an interesting fact. Kind of.
What?
Don't know where that came from.
What's this?
The Shuttle Bay from Star Trek V. They redressed to be the throne room from Coming to America, the movie. Another Eddie Murphy tie-in.
Oh, shit. I'm going to look at that one.
This is Jericho, member for 32 months.
Wow.
Rank of commander. Thank you.
Amazing.
Nick Cage steals the articles of the Federation. National treasure stuff. I like that. And somebody in the chat brought up Whoopi Goldberg. Why did Whoopi work so well? So when you put it that way, yeah, I think Nick Cage could work in that role, as long as he wasn't doing his Nick Cageisms, or toning them down somewhat. But yeah, Nick Cage kind of has a different stigma to him than Whoopi Goldberg did at the time, if you know what I'm saying.
And also, there is there was no internet, so a lot of people knew her content. Actually, I think she was one of the biggest movie stars at the time, but without the internet, you wouldn't even necessarily know she was a person. I mean, a movie star. Now, with so much information distribution, even if you didn't know who he was, or you'd hear someone say he's important, and then everyone would Google it. And also, she was infrequently used, and etc. But
yeah, if he was used as much as her, I think that might work. absolutely.
But
I
just
just wouldn't want him in like a lead role.
yeah, yeah. Like I say, but not a cameo, like a strong secondary to be in half the
Yes.
episode of a season.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and Whoopi was bigger a celebrity then than he is now in terms of current profile.
Like him as an admiral or a fellow starship captain that
Yes.
turns up occasionally, like kind of like Shran in Enterprise.
Well, not to say I want him
Might
in
work.
Discovery, but he could be on the Voyager J. That captain, etc.
Yeah.
Like the official, like in like a. I'm sure if they'd done Enterprise season 5, the Columbia and the lady captain would have been regular because they're the second ship in the fleet.
Yeah.
Like a
Exactly.
a duo, Bonnie and Clyde style.
Yeah. Starship USS Dolphin throws in £1 with no comment. But thank you. And Matt Boardman, wow, $20.
Oof.
Thank you, Matt. He says, here's the thing. TOS was never about the sets or the effects. It was about the stories. Now we love the sets and ships because we love the stories. That's what Brian got wrong. He went for visuals over story. You say that, but his story was quite interesting. His original plan had quite some interesting aspects to it. But yeah, changing the visuals, like changing the Klingons, especially just because you want to, is a fucking dick move, man.
And also,
put your stamp on it.
And also, what a waste of money. Because if they'd done classic Klingons, they would have saved millions of dollars probably, or like $500,000. Because those suits and those face prosthetics. Because I remember them said every time Mary Shifo finished her day, they had to rip the entire face off and put a new one on the next day, versus just a forehead piece that they could take off sometimes. Like they could have acted better. And also, I mostly agree, but I do think that at the time, these ship effects were so so big that people loved the spectacle of seeing the ship.
Yeah, it perked people up and made them pay attention.
That time they were that impressive with a ship that wasn't just flying saucer. Like that ship,
or a rocket,
yeah. That ship made it onto billboards, onto magazines. Like the ship was actually a giant selling point of a realism, and the phaser design, and the fact they've got laser beams that kind of looked like good for the time, aliens that looked good. So I think the effects were so high end at the time that it felt groundbreaking content. And even something as simple as the displays on the bridge, the way they were constructed didn't feel like the generic computer display, big box computers with just flashing lights. They had a certain structure to them that felt more like a real computer versus lights that are blinking for no reason and you sort of ignore them. They had a certain realness to it. That even though it's still blinking lights, it was made in a certain way. So I think that was actually still a big part. Like TNG, those effects were still like not groundbreaking, but cutting edge for TV. And Voyager, I mean, they won Emmys for best visual effects. I mean, they're Lightwave, they were doing some amazing stuff. They were really doing very, very good stuff for TV on a TV budget because they were really trying. So Star Trek tends to be quite high end.
Yeah.
And then how many full CG characters existed to the quality of like the Xindi reptilians? They're very well done Enterprise. Or 8472 in Voyager. They looked very good. I mean, if you compare them to what else was at the time, I'm sure they'd be right up there with full CG characters on a TV budget at least.
Yeah. Marco Van Osh says if Nick Cage would play any alien, what alien would suit him best?
Q. Another Q.
A Q for sure.
Because that would be... Because then he can play
I'm
big
just picturing
and
him as a Vulcan for some reason. I wonder if you could pull that off.
Cyborg.
Figure that out.
Cyborg's brother.
There you go.
Oh, can you imagine if he played Cyborg in Stranger Worlds?
Hey, that would work, actually.
That would work quite well, actually.
Yeah.
Frick.
Yeah.
Ooh. Ooh, and you would like... That's a hell of a beard, Nick. He never has a beard, so that would be quite a distinct look as well.
Yeah.
Okay, vote in the chat right now. Do you want to see Nick Cage as Cyborg? My God.
Well, speaking of, your poll is at 77 votes.
Oh, thank you. So I asked, best thing about the 2022 Star Trek? The options were the old cast returning, developing brand new stories, the variety of Trek, or return to episodic Trek. And I'm interestingly shocked. The strong winner is episodic Trek at 43%. The second best is the just pure variety. Old cast is 19%, and developing brand new stories is only 8%, which is a very interesting way of saying, like, I know that they are someone that can dual wield, but just new for the sake of new is not winning. But returning to the old format wins. Interesting. Yep. Interesting.
Unless Jericho says, knowing Brian Fuller, he probably had a very complex reason for the changes. Probably, yeah. Like there might have been an explanation for those Klingons, like we've talked about early on. Maybe like just a different sect of Klingon society that we hadn't seen before, but there were still like actual Klingons out there. Maybe that tied into his thing. Like,
although we had the council where we saw every single Klingon house. They all look like Discovery Klingons.
Yeah, I know.
So that doesn't work either.
Let's see. Matthew DeFreitas, $5. John Delancey's performance was fantastic, but Q's story definitely did not work. There needed to be more Q to back up his plan.
And just his publicity of being in the season.
Yeah.
Underutilized for the amount of hype, etc.
Nick Cage as a Vulcan would be hilarious. I know, right? And Dan makes a good point. Dan Ben says, back then in the 60s, forehead makeup was quite expensive. It was. It wasn't as much of a, I don't want to say production. It was a newer kind of thing that they were doing. So yeah, making the molds and stuff and the actual prosthetics to attach to the faces was much more in its infancy, and it was expanded on years like over the years, and now it's like piecemeal. You can do it pretty easily. You got good techniques, you got good materials, and it all works very well. In the 60s, yeah, you're right. It was more expensive to do prosthetics and stuff because they were just kind of getting into it, honestly. Like you look at all the movies from then or the older movies, and there's not a lot of it, and you can tell where the seam lines are and stuff because they weren't very good at it yet. So,
which is why the Vulcan was a hell of a thing to make him daily have to put on fake ears, and you can't really tell. Like that is expensive to do as a commitment.
Yeah.
To do that for him every single time, and obviously Shatner's to pay every day to be put on, and to pay budget was huge. Yeah, it's amazing how prosthetics have changed. Which is why you look at Voyager's aliens; they're they're not necessarily way more elaborate. I mean, they are way more elaborate than TNG's. But TNG did some big masks too. But the amount of face to acting ratio in Voyager is far more impressive than TNG. When they went giant alien, it was often you can act less through it, so it was less integrated. Like the Vaudois is an incredible makeup. Like holy shit! Like, and it's seamless, it's flawless, and they can attack in whatever fully. The Enterprise they did a lot less aliens of that sort, so you didn't see it as much. Yeah.
Squadron, of course, we had a whole live talking about the different reasons that Discovery Klingons could make sense. He says they're failed Klingon Reman hybrids, kind of like the human hybrids in TOS. Yeah, we talked about that. That was a good live, actually. Coming up with all the ways they could fix or like explain those Klingons.
But fundamentally, they're not canon in a sense. They're not going to be mentioned again. They're not going to be used again. They don't matter. Move on. Honestly, that's
just a small hiccup in 50 years of history.
Yeah, and they might be put back in 20 years' time, like TOS Klingons we put back in, but not for a while.
Yeah. Starship USS Dolphin throws in £5. Thank you so much. Trekyards, this is Dolphin requesting permission to dock. By the way, Klingon dolphins are needed to be delivered to Martok. Klingon dolphins, I'd like to see what they look like. That'd be interesting. But permission granted. Commence docking procedures. Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting if we get a scene in Strange World Season 2, if the Klingon we saw in the leak is actually a foreground character or a background extra, which might just be a, look, there's a Klingon over there, reference, or if he's a main character, because obviously they might then address the fact that the Klingons either do or don't look like it, because, I mean, they might do an entire 3-episode arc of Strange World Season 2 addressing the fucked up Klingons as a way to apologise to the fans and get more content out of them. You've got to remember that they did sell basically all of the Klingon props, costumes, and makeup in the auctions. So they don't have 18 guard costumes anymore. They haven't got, so anything, and they're not, if you knew, you would, they already knew the scripts. There are not never going to be hordes of Discovery Klingons again. You know, like that, unless they deliberately want to spend the tens of thousands on new costumes when they already had them for years because they held on for them for 3 whole years. A long time for that sort of stuff. So it'd be interesting if they actually address, because Pike, I mean, he was out of the war, but are they going to address the fact that they look real again and make a story of it? Because it could be, it could be interesting if a Klingon shows up and they're Discovery Klingon and then they're being chased by a normal Klingon or vice versa, and there's like, wait, what happened to your race? Well, after the war, we did genetic modification. You know, you could do some fun stuff with that, and that would appease the fans, kind of finish the plot hole. And Strange Worlds has earned that maybe they could do it right. But at the end of the day, it's admitting they were wrong, and maybe they'll do it. Don't know. They did the Gorn dirty, so let's see what they do for Klingons.
Well, they almost have to, on principle, do the Klingons right at this point. As a we're sorry to the fans, and if they do that, if they actually do have like a 2-parter that explains that or something,
wow,
I would be so happy, and I would give them so much praise for that.
Just took them 5 years.
Yeah,
because we've had Klingons in Lower Decks, Prodigy, so Klingons have been ample back, and they're Klingons again. We haven't seen a single Discovery Klingon since Discovery Season 2, so that's years ago at this point. You know, my goodness.
The trick will be to see whether Discovery addresses the Klingons in the future. Because I'm surprised they haven't at least mentioned them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as with all these things, we saw Romulans appear more because, like, I'm sure, because obviously, when you say, right, we're going to do this alien race again for the first time, or for the first time again, you're creating 3D models of molds and stuff. Well, you can then send that between your LA and your, as in Picard, and your Toronto branch, and save all the R&D time. So suddenly we saw more Romulans appear in Discovery. I mean, Vulcan, Romulan, those. So if they've got Klingons for Stranger Worlds, they can just pass those files onto Discovery down the block, or send makeup down the block, and Discovery can include Klingons without spending much money. So you might now see Klingons season 5 because Stranger Worlds already broke the seal on doing them, and the makeup is now interchangeable, etc. All the costumes, etc. Which would be fine.
Yeah, I don't think they could do another season of Strange New Worlds without having Klingons, honestly, considering the time it takes place and the political landscape of
also,
the time.
They just had a giant war that killed a third of the fleet.
I was mentioning Discovery, not Strange New Worlds. Hopefully they kind of separate themselves from that a bit. Oh, the Enterprise, one of our best and newest ships. We wanted to keep you away from the war so you don't get destroyed as a backup.
Even though we doubled your size as a war, like it's called a war refit in the Igamos book.
Yeah,
you know. So it was made bigger and better to fight in the war, and then sent out away from the war, and then refitted down again to a standard version.
Mm-hmm. And John McWhat, I agree with that also. I'm indifferent to that on them using an episode to retcon the Disco Klingons. If they just made them look correct without explanation, I wouldn't be upset. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
I'm kind of there with you too.
But there's two ways of doing it. Either the Trials and Tribulations, we don't talk about this, where you directly Pike says, "I thought all of you Klingons look this way." No, that was our war spirit. Like a single line, and then moving on, hand wave it, or you go full on and dedicate something to, like I said, apologizing to the fans, admitting some stuff, showing it off. You've got all the CG files of all those old Klingon ships. You know, having a big epic goodbye, like a funeral pyre, sort of burning the models on a fire of this scene, etc.
Yeah. Well, I like the hand wave idea too, but I also just ignoring it would be fine. Just moving on, like to kind of cut the ties to Discovery, which they will never do because Spock is always going to mention Michael.
Yes. But if they ignore it, then we the fans are left thinking, well, it is canon, but they're basically saying it's not canon, but it is always going to be canon. If they give a reason, at least we can then make a end cap of it.
Yeah, I just realized that there might be a reason Spock never talks about Michael Burnham after. Maybe he loses his memory or memories.
Ooh.
Uhura in like the Changeling, where she gets her mind wiped.
Oh, that's
and
good.
They just never bother telling him about it because it caused too much pain or something.
That
So
my
who knows?
good
Write me a story
man.
about that.
That my good man would be a good strong. Yes, that's good. Because that would be the
It'll
ultimate
explain a lot.
retcon.
Yeah.
Then no issue at all.
Yep.
And then you bring Sneaker back in for like, season 9, and be like, "You forgotten me? Huh? Who are you?" And it's quite sad actually.
I never had a sister.
But I had a brother. His name was James T. Kirk.
Ho ho.
Yes.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about what didn't work. That was a good discussion, actually. Do we want to talk about Lower Decks at all? Because Lower Decks this season was not as shiny and bright as the last couple seasons. There was quite a few slumps there where we're like, oh, come on, guys. And I was a little disappointed. It's almost like, because they were firing on all cylinders for so long, and then they just missed a few beats here and there in this season, and I was like, oh, they picked it up at the end of the season, though. But I don't know what the explanation for that would be. I don't think the writers are running out of ideas or anything. But
no. No, it's. I mean, like we said, not every show's gonna land with us, and they might be trying new things, and not everything's gonna work, and that's okay. Just, notably not as excited by some of the stuff. Some of it was very good, but as we said at the time, once you hit such a high bar, that's a dangerous bar. Just being good is a win for Discovery. Just being good is a win for Picard. Like if it's okay, it'll feel like a boost, right? Which is why Picard's so bad, because episode 1 is so glorious and it slumped so bad. If it started medium, it would have felt medium, but it started high, therefore it felt worse. So Lower Decks starting and continuing so strong means that anything below an 8 feels like a 6, feels like a 5, But also, they've gone very episodic, and they set up such a huge situation at the end of season 2. I mean, that was an amazing cliffhanger. The Pagla planet blown up, the mum in prison, and they resolved it in one episode and didn't mention it again. That's when it felt like the reset button was so strong that it almost was meaningless, because the stakes got removed after being set up, and and that was the entire season of Packers building up to that. Like it needed to be 3 episodes of that. It needed to be other things. It needed to be building and paying off. But then it became, you raise to a 10, you're back to a 6, and they don't quite find the tension again because there's no tension to be found. They throw away the Titan as a concept. No Titan. Like stuff they built up as possible use, didn't even think about using it.
Yeah. Shauna Sullivan, though, €2. Disco Klingons are rainbow Daleks. Never happened.
Huh.
I don't know about the rainbow Daleks. So, Generation Productions, Trekyards, but wasn't it explained that the weird-looking Klingons were the OG, and the TOS were genetically modified to look human, and the TNG ones were genetically modified again to get the head ridges back? No. In Enterprise, they were all ridged-headed Klingons. They had an augment virus, which made them smooth-headed, like in TOS. And that was only a certain percentage of the population.
It was like 6 planets.
Yeah.
That's it. So
and colonies, yeah.
Yeah, so several million Klingons out of several trillion.
Yep.
So most Klingons were never that. We just happened to see them on TOS. Yep. But some TOS Klingons had surgery to look Klingon again. But remember, we also met Kahless, the first Klingon, the most famous Klingon, who also was a normal Klingon. So we know all Klingons like Klingons for all of time, except for Discovery and the organ virus, which affected some. Now, once you interbreed with people, yes, it'll make various less ridged people, which is great. It's fine. But no, it was there were standard Klingons and there's some smooth heads for a bit of time. Klingons are actually ridiculously consistent. Actually, Michael Westmore did them from like 89 to 2004, like 30 years of one guy doing Klingon makeup, like the concept guy. That's very consistent with always the same vision for 30 years. Like Klingons did not evolve. Like they stay consistent and clever and yeah.
Even JJ's Klingons look good.
Yeah.
In comparison to Discovery's.
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah. They're alright. Because they were just a fun like tweak versus a fuck you. And it's sad, as I say it all the time, but there is a Klingon with hair, like 6 to the left. He's just not visible in most of the shots. If he had been next to the bald head, you wouldn't think anything of the bald head. But the fact that front three are all bald, it feels weird. But if you had a true mix in frame, you wouldn't think anything of it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, just a stupid explanation. Their line of dialogue for the Klingons was that during wartime they shaved their heads. So
except all the other wars, Stuart.
Exactly.
Which there were many.
Exactly.
Like TOS Cold War. And the TNG War. And the DS9 War.
Yeah. 57 likes, guys. We're almost at that 60 I asked for. 3 more likes. We're about $50 away from our minimum. So if you guys want to continue super chatting with anything you want to talk about, any of the series that we had this last year, anything good or bad you want us to talk about, super chat in. Let us know your thoughts. Let's try to get to that minimum. Another $50 is all we need. So.
Yeah, no, it's because it's funny because what they got right was lots of good stories, lots of good standalone stories. Because most of the best episodes are the standalone stories this year. You know, because Picard episode 1 is sort of a standalone story, in that it barely connects to the rest of the season. Then at the end, so that kind of is a standalone story, right? Discovery, first and last, have very unique vibes. They're kind of standalone. Prodigy, the best episode is a standalone one. And the other ones that benefit from standalone work well. The 4 in the middle that aren't or interconnected don't necessarily feel as full. And then Lower Decks, it varies, but I can't remember all of them, so it's hard to say. But then the ones that stand out, like the flight one, and the one of the take your, you know, become past Starfleet Academy, etc. So episodic certainly helped this year.
Yeah.
But yeah. It just would be interesting to know how much of Discovery and Picard's budget was sucked up with COVID stuff. Because they couldn't just necessarily throw 10 million more each to see no return, because it's not going anywhere except PPE and other such. But if they each lost 10% of their budget, it'd be interesting to know what they had to cut, or they couldn't do. I mean, Picard is pretty obvious, like, just story plots, you know. Like you kind of feel the point where they're out of money, etc. You know, but
yeah.
But it's interesting to see, and that might be also why Lower Decks and Prodigy feel so much more full, because they had, you know, the COVID problems weren't factored in at all. Like they had the full scope, full scale they wanted to have.
Generation Production says, okay, so Enterprise, TNG, Klingons always had the head ridges. TOS had no head ridges because they were a different type, and the whole myth of the human Klingons were genetically modified is BS. Okay, no, they were genetically modified. The Klingons were trying to make an augment virus to make themselves stronger and more powerful, and it backfired and created the smooth-headed Klingons. And the reason you saw the smooth-headed Klingons in TOS was because they were patrolling the Federation border, and they wanted to be more able to infiltrate Federation space and not be noticed. There you go.
Yeah, as long as they shaved off their, yeah. But you know, like I said, they interbred. You know, if you make 8 million Klingons, either those colonies are going to stay smoothhead, or the population, and therefore they're going to be shunned from the rest of Klingon society, which means they're going to stay isolated and keep breeding smoothheads, or they're going to be able to interbreed with the rest of the society and diversify out over the years, or kind of a mix of both. And we've said this many a time that, you know, not just they look like humans, but also, while they were maybe slightly physically stronger, maybe with some augment strength, maybe a little bit of residual strength, they had nothing else was different. So the Klingon Empire might have, you know, we've got 2 million of these guys, 190 million normal Klingons. Fuck these guys. Let's put them on the front line with the Starfleet, because we don't care if they live or die. So they like the Remans in Enterprise are a subclass. They're given different roles. So also those smoothheads, and so they were given front line to that side, but you know, is a Cold War that important compared to maybe an active war with Romulans or you know, other engagements? So it's just, you know, unfortunately a subclass of looking down on them. Obviously, it's about 100 years in, so at that point the negativities maybe moved a bit in the spectrum, but, you know. And then obviously at a certain point, surgery became a huge deal, and everyone became rigid again. Because, you know, we saw in Stranger Worlds, well, it's a little bit full on, but, you know, ridges appear. Like, genetically modified, boom, now you've got new things. So it could have been that easy. Unless, obviously, the subclass was then, you know, well, we want to stay smooth-headed because we are Klingons too, etc. And then they, you know, yeah. Then there might have been a renaissance of the ridges, and everyone volunteered to go ridged for the most part, you know?
Yeah, well, we know the Kang, Koloth, and whatever the other one was. Anyway, they all got the ridges back from TOS, so if they chose to get the surgery or the genetic enhancements to get the ridges back, so... Yeah, I can't hear you. Muted.
It's a great Enterprise sub-arc. I mean, they did a really great job dealing with the augment virus. It's very logical. It helped fix a plot point in canon, and also, yeah, no, it's great. It's probably one of the smartest things they did. You know, DS9 said, let's not talk about it, and Enterprise dedicated. In theory, it's actually a 5 or 6 parter because they do half of the augment and then it goes into the other stuff. So it's actually a 2.
That's true.
It's a 2 parter or 2-3 parter, which is great because then you feel doubly beneficial from you learned all the canon in the first half, pays off in the second half, etc.
Yeah. So Ray Ricks throws in £5.
Thank you
so much. Could we get a Borg Civil War at some point? Girardi versus original Borg. When is that going to happen? It's not going to be as Picard season 3. They're talking now about doing another season or 2, so who knows? But the way they ended that was very odd, honestly. With the big threat that's looming and the gatekeepers and, you know, Borgatti sitting there being a gatekeeper to protect the, like. Yes, you need to explain this at some point. You need to explain the tentacle things that came through in season 1 also. Is it connected? Hopefully, because that would make a lot of sense. But I don't think they're going to. I'm sure it's fertile ground for a book, a novel, absolutely. I don't think you're going to see it on screen, though.
And also, it's sort of a nonsensical fight because the Girardi Borg come from alternate future where they were already 24th century. Then they had an extra 200, 300 years to get more powerful. But they've only got one ship, so the technology is far more advanced. But they've got one ship versus a collective, which is far, far less advanced, but still hundreds of ships. It's a boring fight, honestly. Like, either Girardi will win against every cube, and the Borg might adapt and then win, but a double Borg adaptation... Like, it's zombies versus zombies. Like, so what? One set of zombies have a machine gun. The other, there's 80 times more zombies on the other side. It's like it's a dull situation. And it was done for a dull reason. Like, it's not an interesting subplot. And as Terry said, it's meaningless. Like, there was still the Borg... Because that was the thing. They literally had to put out a press statement saying, no, the Borg are not destroyed or reverse engineered or undone. Because obviously the Borg would go back and meet the Borg and change the entire timeline. But they didn't think about that enough to put a line in saying that, basically. So everyone's like, well, now the Borg stopped being the thing. And then to say, nah, it didn't change anything. So I guess it would change a lot. But just ignore it. You know, never talk about them again. It's fine. They don't matter. They're not going to hire Alice Peel back again. Like, it's fine, you know. It's fine.
Alison Pill, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the, think of it somewhat like the brain bugs from TNG Season 1. It felt giant at the time, meaningless now. In the grand scheme. And that's okay. Not every story goes places.
Marco Van Osh throws in €6.
Thank you.
Even though I like some of the new Trek shows better than others, I do enjoy the references to what came before in all of those shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we're in a everything's in general improving, as in everything's genuinely being interconnected. Everything genuinely feels more like the people behind it want to do better balance, and then it's up to good ideas or bad ideas. You know, like a season will live or die on a good idea or a bad idea. and you won't even know if it's a good or bad idea until you finish the idea sometimes, and that's okay. You know, that's why episodic helps. Some things just don't hit.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in Discovery Season 5. Just from what I saw in the trailer, I'm like underwhelmed to say the least. And the description, Indiana Jones in space. I mean, those are both really cool things, space and Indiana Jones. But is it, Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, Indiana Jones? Because that's what I think it might be. And the trailer did not look impressive. I need a new Discovery trailer that's going to grab me. We're going to watch it regardless, but, I was just not impressed.
Yeah. It depends what you're looking for.
Yeah. But of course, yes, but that's a sign that the story is not good when you have to come along behind it to explain it. That really changed. Exactly. Or if you need to read like a comic, a crossover comic to explain shit. And it's cool to retexture your world, like the world you create with like comics that help enhance it, like bolster it a bit. But as a key element of a fucking story, if it's not in your story and other people don't read the other media to understand what happened, I think that's a problem.
Well, it's like the best jokes aren't the ones you have to explain.
Yes.
Those are not necessarily the worst jokes, but if they don't work and you have to explain them, you're not going to laugh once you explain them, right? You've lost that punch. So if to understand a story, you have to watch side media, that's a failure of your story.
Yeah.
Like the alternate universe subplot in Picard is just misthought out. The hubbub of the reference of having the guy on the bus, like it breaks the entire point of the story. And then the official answer was he probably felt it from an echo of the timeline. It's like, right. So does that apply to other people, other species? Other people across the timeline feeling echoes and doing things against their own benefit? Does that mean they'll feel the echoes of this evil universe now? It's a stupid thing to throw out because it adds all these other things. Cut that scene if you're gonna do it. If you.
And Squadron Course, yes, we did get Indiana Jones in space with the ancient Vulcan motion weapon, and also the one with the preservers, where they found out that all life in the galaxy was seeded by them, and that's why
that wasn't the preservers. I think that was the preservers. I think that was just the.
That was the.
They weren't given a name, I don't think.
What were they called?
Well, there's the Iconians, and there's the preservers, and there's the Con, and there's
Icon.
the. I don't think they were given a name. TNG.
I think they were.
In all life, aliens.
Anywho, good story, yes, for Indiana Jones. There's been a few good Indiana Jones type stories in Trek.
It's the episode where the lady that played the female changeling played an alien that looked like the changeling.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's so confusing when you.
Such a great episode, though, and you think it'd have huge ramifications.
Yes, you would.
For cultural relations, but nope, it's forgotten the next week. It's fine.
But also, how does it...
Progenitors, that's what they were called. Thank you, John McWhat.
There you go,
yes.
Yeah. Which isn't really a name, it's just a statement of...
Yeah.
Yeah. And at Dan Ben, yes, a lot of things that weren't mentioned or explained in Prodigy were in the Star Trek Logs Instagram. Yeah, but I listened to a lot of those, and they didn't add, like, important plot points. They added texture to what already happened. Yes. That's different.
It had seasoning and flavor to it. It wasn't a huge missing piece.
Yeah, you didn't learn why the protostar couldn't pro-jump as the linchpin of episode 8 inside the log after episode 8, which would be important. Like, yeah, a little bit different. And I think because Stargate Universe did the same thing. They did webisodes for every episode. It was a 4-minute piece on the sets. Little cheap simple thing based on the Kino, flying around with them, and they either referred directly to an episode pre or post it came out to give a bit of extra bonus. Some episodes it was just the thing just happened, everyone breathed, and you see the reaction afterwards like a day later, or some just random that were fun, and they weren't important, but they added bonus texture. I mean, it'd be so lovely if Trek could do epilogue scenes, be kind of cute, like a bonus thing you put online.
Short treks.
well, not even short treks, just short trek scenes. Just a bonus something. I don't know. It'd be difficult structurally, but it'd be interesting. Yeah.
Jasper Jedi, you just helped me figure out the plot of season 5 of Discovery.
Ooh.
Jasper Jedi says, I personally would really enjoy an ancient overarching alien race from long ago storyline, but a follow-up from an older episode like the Iconians or the Progenitors. So what's going to happen is, this is what season 5 is about. It's a huge galaxy-destroying threat.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Yet again.
No. Wait, just one galaxy?
Yeah, we're going to keep it to our galaxy.
Okay. We're going to be really conservative this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We're not going to upscale it.
We've learned.
So,
only one galaxy. Okay, good.
Because the whole galaxy was seeded by the Progenitors, means we all have something in common. What's going to happen is they're going to base it on COVID, and there's going to be a huge pandemic that breaks out that wipes out like 3 star systems, and it's moving, and they don't know why, but it's because we were all connected and related in some way. We all have some gene or genetic that is going to be affected by this virus. So the Discovery has to go out and find the progenitors, find their genetic laboratory, and find a cure. Otherwise, the entire galaxy is going to die from a plague. That's the fucking plot of season 5 of Discovery.
And everyone has to wear space masks that are actually invisible. You put them there, they just...
Yeah, well, yeah.
Wear your mask, guys.
Like Kirk's mask from the thing, and then like the band that goes over.
Or you make them full morph and you just dub in everyone afterwards, so you don't even have to write the script.
Exactly.
You just have them do this, and you write it afterwards. Whole thing done in post. God, imagine that. Then all the issues could be retconned out. Jesus Christ. Wow, that's amazing. My issue with that, not that specifically, but the idea of using those races. I love the Iconians and the Preservers. I love the idea of those from the little we know. If you throw them in real canon, only Prodigy, I think, could probably do them justice. Because lower decks will make them too silly or too giant. You know, for them, the Iconians are 12 foot tall. It's like, okay. And they're ape creatures with 9 legs. It's like, okay. Like, I don't want that. I want something relatable that's understand. Like what they would have done if it was in season 8 of Voyager. Like, keep it to that level. Prodigy would try and keep it more grounded. Like, more so. And Picard, depending on who did Picard, maybe. But I you know, you can never redo an ancient race once you. It's like now we know the Travelers, right? The Travelers are now Gary 7. Like, that's it for all time. That's the reason behind them. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Wayne Odd says social distancing on starships, diabolical. No, it'll be starship distancing and planet distancing.
And the cell distancing, yeah.
Now that they're bringing the Federation together again, they got to stop that because it's spreading the virus and it's killing everybody. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, I have zero expectations of Discovery, so it could do anything and be interesting. As long as they advance in it lots, and Madam President and Kovic, those 3 are solid characters, really, really solid characters, all 3 of them. Book is great. Isn't it funny, Stuart? All the new characters in seasons 3 and 4 are great, and all the original characters are a bit naff.
And the original characters that I found interesting have been changed to the point where they're not even recognizable anymore. So,
yeah. Funny that.
Yeah.
As if they were bad ideas and they didn't find it interesting. You know, like, what are you doing with Stamets? Nothing. Okay. Colby's just all there. Dear me.
Culber is the thing that makes Stamets bearable.
Mm-hmm.
He's like tones down Stamets. Yeah.
And Stamets is the non-engineer that knows how to engineer everything.
That's always engineering.
He's not got a degree in engineering. He's a plant doctor.
Yes,
No,
some kind of biologist.
Yeah. Like, if you throw those people today into an engineer room of a steam, of a battleship, they couldn't do anything. Even with basic field training, because he's not a young spring chicken, is he? He's in his late 30s at the start of season 1, if not 40s. If your basic training for engineering at the academy was 25 years ago, it's fair you're not going to remember everything. And tech's changed. Like, you're not. Like, is the microbiologist going to be given a how to run Discovery's engine room before he goes on the ship?
Apparently. I understand the close nature of the spore drive connected to the engineering. Whatever.
But he didn't build the engine part. His co-person did.
Exactly, yes.
He was a spore part of it.
Died on the Glen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny, like, you go back onto any of the old Treks, the engineer officer is really freaking important. They're always in it.
You say that, but season 1 of TNG, they had like 2 different chief engineers. Not till Geordi got the job that chief engineer was actually that important.
Well, yeah.
We had the lady, we had the bearded guy.
But they weren't it regularly though. Like there's chief engineers constantly, so they were important characters. They didn't want to have a 12th regular. But B'Elanna, always important. Trip Tucker, one of the main 3, always important. O'Brien, freaking hugely important. I mean, the engineer is a really, really important character, and Stamets is not an engineer. He does not fit that role. Like, even Adira being something the engineer would have worked more, like, weird, but, like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Listen, Jericho, to think we still haven't seen the engineering room of Discovery. Right? Oh, my God.
They've launched the Warp Core before. It's just a stupid show.
Wayne Hogg, you gotta wait 2 weeks in outer solar orbit on changing star systems before you can away team.
Dear me.
I wouldn't be surprised, guys. Honestly,
I think they would have done that for season 4 if they're going to go pandemic story. It'd be weird to do it. It would be weird to do it now because it's not, because now it's a horror story versus a living nightmare. Do you want to be reminded after the fact, or do it during when it's a zeitgeist? You know. Now it's just, if there was any pandemic story on anything, I'd be like, oh god, really, guys, we're out of that. Don't go back. And also, I want to start a new poll though as well, Stuart, briefly. 63 votes. Nick Cage as Cyborg. 59% yes. I'll take it.
You know what else we'll take? An ad up the wazoo. There you go. Let's see. John McWutt says, at least we have Commander Reno. Do we, though? There is many times where she would have been, like, important to have included, and she just was not around. She's in her quarters eating her black licorice, I guess. Need more of her for sure. Let's see. Maybe Michael Burnham is really a Time Lord and Discovery is her TARDIS. That would explain the Turbo List anyway. You're absolutely right. She is a Time Lord. That makes so much sense. Dan Ben says TNG was made. They thought Enterprise D would be unbreakable and wouldn't need a chief engineer, so they didn't hire an actor. They could use different actors until they got a full-time one.
Doesn't sound logical at all.
Not really.
And we've already had a Q debate, but we'll briefly answer. Question. The Qs are immortal, so why did Q decide to die in Picard? Your thoughts? Well, they're not necessarily immortal, and he didn't decide to die. He was dying and wanted to die with Picard to help him. So something made him die, unknown, but he didn't want to die, and he wasn't, I mean,
it was that punch from Cisco catching up with him.
Yeah, through time and space.
Another god. Yeah.
I mean, there's in any fantasy novel, there's always one thing that can kill a god, always. Mm-hmm. Kryptonite, Superman, etc. So
look at Apollo from TOS. Just not being worshipped was enough to.
Yeah. So maybe Q just bumped into a third cousin, the M's. And the M. Well, no, I mean, no, they're not immortal because there's literally a war of the Q continuum where they killed each other. Like Qs were dying left, right, and center. So loads of Qs die. Like maybe he was poisoned by Lady Q 40,000 years ago after their third divorce, and it caught up to him 40,000. Like they are just aliens. So something made him die. It didn't really feel like old age because they didn't play into that really because he was still fine-ish. And also, Stuart, we at the poll because I want to.
Ooh, we got a new poll, guys.
Yes.
Go vote. Was Discovery Season 1 a good season of Star Trek and TV? Overall, no. Overall, yes. Loved it. Really good season. Should add another. Wow. I would have broken it down to: was it a good season of Star Trek, or was it a good season of TV, or was it a good season of sci-fi?
But that's why overall, because overall it's like 51%. So I wanted to break out those that's like overall 51% no wasn't good. 'Cause that's overall, right? Or just loved it and then good. Also, I need to go to Twitter for a second because everything's gone through me. So back in a second.
Okay. Generation Productions. Okay. Interesting. Thanks, Samuel. Yes. So my chance to remind you guys to hit that like button if you haven't. We're at 69 likes, and 69 is a good number, but we can do better than that. Let's get up to 80. And let's see. We're about $45 away from our minimum, so a couple more super chats in there would be awesome to close out. We're gonna be closing out in 20 minutes ish. So, and no new members this live. So if you want to click that join button and see what it would take to help us on a monthly basis, we'd really appreciate that as well. If you can't really super chat a lot of time, a couple bucks, once a month is a big deal. So if you can join the channel, we'd like to welcome a new member to this live. That'd be awesome. Season 1 of Prodigy is the best Star Trek of 2022 for me, to be honest. It's good. It's a fair bet, Donnie. A lot of people probably think that. It's definitely up there for me. I actually think it is number one for me. Better than Lower Decks this season for sure. That being said, Strange New Worlds was really good, but there are a few things that make me think that Prodigy is a lot better. So, yeah, I would tend to agree that Prodigy's kind of hit that number one spot for us. Let's see. Carlos.
Oh, I forgot I washed my towels. I had to go find the towels.
Goddamn.
I know towels. Sorry, hi.
John McQuett says Star Trek or Strange New Worlds beats out Prodigy for me, but it's close. The best Trek of 2022.
It depends what you're looking for.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because it was so much more. It's more satisfying to watch 50 minutes of a good story with good characters. But the fact they condense so much good Trek into 22 minutes, time after time, is more impressive. And the Canon
and show Trek.
Yeah.
And show Trek like it should be shown. Yeah.
Like it's so different metrics, It's like a JJ verse series with really good stories would be great if it was good stories. Same way the Stranger World, like good stories are what we want, right?
Dan Ben says the writer's guide for Star Trek Next Generation by David Gerrold states that they would have no problems with hardware constantly breaking down, and that we've found a better type of dilithium, no need for engines. No need for an engineer. Yeah, it's still stupid logic, whether it's in the writer's guide or not.
And abandoned instantly, basically.
Yeah,
and for all time. I mean, that's
so much better storytelling potential when there's problems.
Well, and it's not even like Geordie. Like there wasn't even problems with the ship so much as problems with things the ship will do to solve the galaxy problem. It's just a beautiful set as well. Engineering. Such a nice set. I loved seeing it. I mean, that warp core with that hum, like right now, right?
The thrum that.
Assume you had unlimited credit card debt. How much would you pay right now? And only engineering to be beamed into engineering for like an hour. How high would you go? Like fully lit. That thing is going. There's a sound effect going. You can't leave engineering, so it's one set, but it's fully on. Everything's going. There's no tape on the floor. It's all there. Like just today, right now.
No idea.
I would pay $1,000 to like today be there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'd probably put 1,000 in. Yeah, that'd be nice. 2,000's that's I think too much, but 1,000 I'd probably throw in. I assume we get our phones when we take selfies. God, can you imagine if we did that? The reaction for our fans. How the hell are you in the TNG engineering room? Where the hell did you find that? And it's like, this is Captain Foley log, stardate. I found the TNG sets. And it's not green screen. You would break the internet, man. Somehow.
We need to invent time travel transporters so we can beam into the sets after everybody leaves.
Now, I know this is a huge tangent, but obviously we need $50 in super chats. I said this to you before, but not for a couple of years. If I got time travel, the first thing I would do practically well, assume I had a bit of money, but what I would do is I would want to go back to 1967, and you go to the sets of Desilu, and you find the producers, and you say, hello there. I am person, and I've got my camera from today, right? Like, I've got a camera. How much for me to have a filming day with your entire cast? I will pay for the day. And I want them to read my script in my way. I'm sponsoring a day of filming with my cameras, and I'll do it. And then you work out how much, and you pay that somehow, whatever. So you need money as well, but fine. And then to be able to be on the set and be recognised as a director, to film with my camera, my 6K Pro camera, Shatner as Kirk in his heyday, and I guarantee the sets would look nicer on my camera now, like through that lens, and to film a new episode, and then release that all of a sudden, like a full 4K anamorphic film of everything original, like 10 minutes.
Last episode, yeah.
But like, how much that blow up the world? Like, how has that done that? Like, it's beautiful, crisp, clean 4K. Like, what would you think if that happened? I mean, that's got to be time travel, right? Like, how do you, like, But I think it'd be so fun. I mean, you know, they were a high budget show, but I don't think their pride extends to here's $50,000, which at the time I'm sure people like $150,000.
Yeah.
Like, give me one day with everybody, and they're working actors. They wouldn't be offended by it, you know. Like, that would be the best day. Like, screw going to meet Jesus. Like, one time travel trip. No, I'd do that. Because that, for me, would be the most incredible thing ever. And obviously, you'd come along with me, Stuart. You'd be there.
Yay.
Obviously.
I'm his lackey. I bring him coffee and hold things.
Yeah, 1960s high-end coffee. What would 60s coffee be? Goodness. Yeah, what did I
be like? It would be like Rios. Everything's so real here. Everything back in the 60s.
They have cocaine back in the Coke. It's so much better. But that would be interesting, though, to go to craft services and taste, like, 60s, like, everything. Because they didn't skimp on that stuff. It was a real crafts table. Like, would you taste the difference in a banana? Like just the way the evolution of everything's gone. The bread is different. The water's different. Yeah. I think you'd probably taste difference. Or maybe the marmalade's more fresh. It's when processed. Like, that would be really interesting, actually. Because I don't, like, obviously people lived back then. Like, Shatner did that, but it's changed over time. You wouldn't feel the context.
Yeah.
But yeah, could you imagine then, like, having you like, say I got Nick Cook from Scotland to come too, put him in a Voyager costume or First Contact, have him work with Shatner. If I was like, Nemesis Shatner, and you give Shatner like a First Contact phaser rifle, and he's like walking through the, like, because I've got the rifle. Like, imagine him walking through his corridor with a First Contact phaser rifle. And it's like, oh, this is the funnest thing I've ever done.
We all know what Samuel daydreams about now, guys.
I just, because they're really good actors. I guarantee I could write Shatner a really great script and he'd love it and just kick their butt.
Marco Van Osh. All the series did something right, but Prodigy seems to deliver on all points. Story, canon, using legacy characters, well, etc., etc. Yes, and it's season 1 as well.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's well, no, yeah. But guys, we're still $45 away from a minimum. Do you want to throw another ad out there, Stuart, just while we have a last little bit?
It's time for an ad, guys.
Oh.
And we're back.
Yes. So we do need a super spike. It'd be great to see a last few bits and bobs. If you can throw in, that would be marvelous.
Iker Solis says, I love your videos, guys. I'm from Spain, and it's a shame there's so little Trek community.
Oh, no.
Well, glad you love our videos, and we have a community here all the time when we do lives, so please join us for the lives.
Yeah. And we'll interact, and if you have interesting thoughts, maybe you've had you see a Voyager live that we're doing, so, I've had this idea for 20 years, hey, throw them in. Yeah. Is there any community in Spain? I mean, I assume there are people everywhere in every town, but, like, in my hometown, there isn't a sci-fi club. You know, like community. Like, I could not go out tomorrow and find people that agree with me in Star Trek. If I went to a convention, I obviously would. But do you have any sci-fi conventions in Spain? Obviously, there's FedCon in Germany, but that's FedCon. You don't often hear about, Shatner flying to a small town in Spain. So I guess maybe that's not a thing. But do you guys have conventions? I've never necessarily heard of any.
Let's see. Generation Productions. Okay, so we're talking about time travel. So why slingshot around the sun? Would not slingshot around the planet be better as opposed to the sun? No, because the sun has the gravity well that you need. The planet does not have anywhere near the amount of gravity that the sun has, and that's what you need for the slingshot.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's radically different. The gravity is what you're using to break space-time.
Yeah.
And also you need a certain size of star. I believe that's also a slightly a part of it.
It is, yeah.
We just happen to have a good star, etc. But, you know,
and
that's all good.
And Squadron Course, $1. So did someone say last super chat? No, not yet, hopefully.
Well, yeah. Ooh.
Because Sci-Fi Science Interest throws in £10.
Thank you.
Star Trek Discovery Season 1 was as great as when the Klingon Vok trying to say Kalis. But while the problem was relying on past characters, Lorca needed more fleshing out and needed Prime Lorca in Strange New Worlds. Yes. We need to see or at least have a log of him or something. Yes, I agree.
He would have been a perfect short trek.
Yep.
Like prequel. I mean, if you did the one with Giorgio and Saru, just do another one with Prime Lorca. Like, he's entirely irrelevant to his time in Discovery. Just 5 years ago. I know he obviously looks older now, so it would be harder to do a prequel where he looks 5 years older. But yeah, that's fine. Dye his hair.
And Eric Martin throws in $10. Good to see Eric. Road chat. Are you on the road?
I guess so.
Well, thank you. We're only $5 away now from our minimum. So
getting real close.
that was this last super chat time. Start your snipe.
And Delphic Rachel says, I live in South Africa and finding fellow fans is a nightmare. Yeah, I mean, if I didn't do conventions, I wouldn't even necessarily know anybody locally. It's funny because there's so many people in every place we live, thousands. It's with rail networks and bus networks. I mean, is Facebook a big thing there, as in there are groups that are local? I say that as well, and there aren't any Facebook groups of Bedford sci-fi fans, so why would there be? I mean, is there not maybe in a central city in South Africa where there's more people congregated, there might be a sci-fi community, or is it looked down upon? I mean, there's such a broad spectrum of people now around the world, you'd think there's a bit of everything everywhere.
Well, Delphic, Rachel, I'd like to invite you as well to come join our lives where you can have these discussions with other like-minded people. This is the place. Iker Solis says, I have to watch most series on pirate sites because there's no way to see them, only Picard. And
so only Amazon?
In Spain,
then, I guess?
In Spain, there's lots of sci-fi culture, but Star Wars, man. Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, they're fucking region locking everything, and not including the entire world in their release dates, as we saw with. Oh my god, it's a clusterfuck.
And obviously, if you've never had them, then you're not expecting them. You know, like we got locked out of things in the UK randomly between things almost. Oh, I mean, did Paramount Plus not even come out now? Because it's been rolling out over 21 to 22, so it should have been out everywhere by now, I would think. And obviously Netflix is very different around the world. Oh, I'm so sorry. So obviously you can't support the new Treks because they're not trying to give it to you.
They don't care enough, yeah.
But that said, I mean, in the 80s, did you get a network TV in Spain to watch TNG? Probably not. I mean, how would, you know what I mean? That's a very niche network thing. So you should be getting it, but I guess things haven't changed much since then. You know, the fact that CBS is apparently so America-centric, despite potentially there's more fans in the rest of the world than in America. If you super classify that, like, I'm going to disclude Canada and probably include that in the rest of the world. Because there are more people in the rest of the world, surely. But throw them all away to some extent. And even, I mean, Star Trek is the most thing that shouldn't be region locked. It
should be a unifying thing. Yeah.
I mean, I don't believe any Star Wars trailers have been region locked. Like whenever they release The Last Jedi, like those are all like just go. I feel like those are just universal. Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, I haven't heard any issues with anything like that.
So they were like, please watch us in China, in Indonesia, like what Star Wars, you know, and then Star Trek's like, fuck you, America. Yeah, wow, that's terrible, isn't it?
Yep.
And most of Star Wars is interesting. That's really interesting.
But of course, going for that last super chat
Ooh.
slot with $1.
And again, Ica, is there a lot of cosplay culture as well? Do you get a lot of places where there's just stormtrooper legions? Because that, you know, people tend to congregate as stormtroopers. That's a whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other problem I have with Paramount and CBS. It's just not. I hate hearing about a new trailer and going to watch it, and it's not available in your area. It's like, we're right next fucking door to you, you dumbasses.
And we made you all. Like, you shouldn't read it me. You came from our loins, all of you.
Wow. Listen to this superiority complex.
No. Hey, you can make crap babies and have crap parents. Just say you did.
All right, guys, we're like $3 away from our minimum, so anybody want to super chat in at $5 would be awesome.
And keep voting in the poll. We're at 51 votes. It's definitely got a bit more or split. Keep voting. I would love to get 60 votes. Let us know. And we'd love to get a minimum. Would be great. Help us out there.
Yeah, the older series are on Netflix, but not the new ones. Discovery was in Netflix for 2 seasons, but they took it out. I was killing everything next to it in the.
That seems so illogical. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's self-sabotage, isn't it?
Darth Eddie ranks them Prodigy, Lower Decks, Discovery, and Picard. What about Strange New Worlds?
Yes.
You missed one.
That one's the curveball of these other things.
Yeah.
Raj, yeah, we had, 3 scenes of Michelle Yeoh's. Yeah, we never knew her, and she was the most white bread, boring Starfleet officer possible. As Georgia,
yeah.
You know?
Richard Kennedy throws in £5.
Oh, minimum. Beautiful.
So with thank you. Picard Season 2, Episode 1 was a highlight for me. It was the most excited I was in 2022 for Trek. The fleet gave me goosebumps like most of Trek, some more than others. Same with us. I remember being super excited about that. And then Dave Blast just sharing so much awesomeness on Twitter. Oh, it was a good time. And then it quickly hit us in the face.
It would have been interesting if you then look at the analytical stuff. I mean, they knew how to grab interest first. I mean, the quality, the internet was so abuzz. What do you talk about? Picard, or Q, or the ships, or the Borg, or the problem, or the blowing up, or the Admiral. Everything is a discussion point. I guess if you grab them early and then half them leave, at least you've grabbed them half the episodes. You know, starting low, not grabbing people. But it's just, Wouldn't it have been great if Terry had written both seasons, if they'd managed to push the production time into an extra half a year, which they did delay a lot. But if Terry had been to write the entire season, my God, would have been great. You know, but hopefully Terry's good writing. You know, he's already got a good rep, but, you know, give them a movie as well. You know, the TNG 5th movie we never got, which was planned. You know, they that was going to be their last. They had an intention to do that. And then it bombed because of many reasons. Like a bad director choice.
Yeah. Let's end this poll. Was Discovery Season 1 a good season of...
Okay.
Overall, yes. 20%, second place. And loved it. Really good season, 4%.
What do you think about that result, Stuart?
It's bang on. Overall, no, should have been a higher percentage, but...
Yeah, I think that's probably about right.
Yeah. Yeah. Delphic Rachel. I do know that Region 8 of CI does luckily include 3 South American cities, as I've just found out now.
Good.
So it could be worse. And by the way, thanks for welcome. Much appreciated, everyone. Well, please, we want to see you back.
Yeah.
So you're welcome here anytime. We love our community. We have a great community and a lot of regulars, so we want you to be a part of it.
And we do lives regularly at this roundabout time, which is 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. GMT, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern, and then your time zone, whatever it is right now. These last 2 hours. So basically, you can kind of check any given day, are we live this time? If you've got free 2 hours, come along, say hi.
Yep.
And we'll have any interaction, as in the conversation is often, I mean, as you saw guys today, by you guys, and our regulars know that. And you can tease us and throw out interesting things, and I love when you can go throw out one statement and it makes 25 minutes of conversation.
Yeah.
That's you guys, it's great.
And please subscribe so you don't miss our edited content as well, because we always have releases on Saturday, guaranteed, and many others when New Trek is on. So,
and I can have another comment. There you go.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm annoying you with Trek situation in Spain, but if you talk with normal people, they only know the JJ films, or maybe they think you're a weirdo. Yeah, we understand that. I grew up in high school, and I didn't mention anything about Star Trek to anybody because it was not a thing that people wanted to talk about. So,
but in fairness, I will think most TV wouldn't be either. Would you want if you were into
the shows like Beverly Hills 90210, everybody's talking about that shit. And it's like,
well, sure, but I mean, cricket or wrestling or monster truck, like a lot of the niche stuff wouldn't be of
wrestling was talked about a lot too.
Okay, wrestling maybe. Yeah, I'd be sorry.
But we're here. Come and join us.
Yeah.
Join us. And make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell notification icon to all.
Yes.
Andy Urich throws in $10.
Amazing.
Happy New Year, Trekyards. Looking forward to more Trek in 2023. Right around the corner, February 16th. So
yeah, we have I'm still waiting to do a thing so I can do a thing, but I've got some very exciting animation content ready, just not. I'd love to launch it this week, but that's not really up to me. So hopefully you guys tune in for that, because it'll be world first. So I'm very excited about that.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. If you haven't hit like yet, hit like. I want to get to 80. One more like. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure you've hit that like button, and please consider giving us super thanks, because those add up as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, join us for our next live, whenever that is. Look forward to seeing
tomorrow.
You.
All right, guys. And so until next time, Cockings.
He's Canon Foley.